Hello everyone, I'm Brian. Today I'm reacting to Is Suffering Always a Bad Thing? I'd say no, not always. And for the most part, it could be almost never. And then if you're enlightened, then what is suffering? That's a interesting word that you use there. But anyways, so for me, um, there are many different kinds of definitions of suffering. Of course, there's the loss of a loved one, and that's a hard suffering. I mean, no joke, no joking. It's just something that we all have to get through, and you will suffer through that. No matter how much you try to understand that, you do of course understand it. We all go, we'll all go someday, and it's just a matter of when. And it's something that you just have to tough through. There's some people who may suffer lesser than others, but I think we all suffer for those things. Now they're suffering of making a mistake because sometimes you do feel bad for making a mistake, but um, hopefully again you come to the understanding, which is my method, understanding that we're all human, we make mistakes, and so long as you did your absolute best, honestly, you gave it 110%, as I say, and you genuinely tried your best. You didn't want to make a mistake. You tried your best. You double checked your work, but somehow a mistake still happens. Then you have no real. You don't really suffer. You shouldn't suffer from it because you did your best. You genuinely did your best, and you could, and the way to kind of repent or whatever is just to learn how to do it right. It's like, okay, what did I do wrong so I can learn from mistake. And so, I mean, so suffering here for me is a mistake. Doing mistake is the best way I could really translate that. So there's of course the loss of a loved one, which that's a tough one. What else? Suffering from a mistake, suffering from a loved one, and then there is something as suffering from yourself in a sense, like when you're just by yourself and you let your mind start roaming. Um, that is something that every individual has to do on their own. For me, I my mind doesn't always roam anymore too much. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. But it has a purpose to it though, and I've accepted that. So it's not a bad thing for me. When it roams, I usually let it roam things that needs to be done, so I can work things out in my mind ahead of time before attacking the problem that I'm trying to work out in my mind, or tackle the day that's like, okay, I need to do this, this, and this. I'll do that in these 3 days, you know. And then there's people out there who are just thinking about their past and past suffering from their past. Um, which, if you understand your past, then you don't really suffer from it. I mean, there's suffering. There's many different ways of suffering. Most of it can be handled, is my opinion. But let's see. And obviously, suffering is not always a bad thing. If you can learn from it, that's great. That's fantastic, honestly.
Most religions start by looking at the issue of suffering. How to stop suffering, why suffering. In fact, the whole of the Buddhist religion is nothing but observing suffering, how to stop suffering. So only thing I can say is this. It's very philosophical. For this age, it's too heavy. I'll just tell you a little bit. When you really look at suffering, so how does suffering come? When you think about it carefully, it's not a bad thing when you think about it. I'm talking about human suffering, not the poor animals. They are in trouble. But for human beings, so why is suffering so not so bad? Think about it. Suppose I put my finger in the fire, it burns, I go, ouch! Suppose lunchtime and I'm getting pangs of hunger, I must put some, I'm feeling hungry, I'm feeling, you feel suffering. So suppose, I walk in the garden and there's a thorn on my side, ouch! And it sticks in my skin, I go, ouch, it's suffering. So why is that suffering? You have to think like this carefully. What is happening? In reality, it's not so bad because suffering tells you, you want to live in this body? Yeah, I like this body. I want to keep living. I don't want to die. Then the suffering tells you, then take action. This is like danger signal. Ding, 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 ding. Your body is in trouble. It's in danger. So start doing something. So what do? Pull your finger out of the fire.
So, pain, I guess. So, I guess. Did I forget to mention that part? There's emotional suffering too.
You burn your hand. So that's why suppose you put your finger in the fire so nice and warm, feel, I leave it there, you get burnt. So it has to be, ouch! Same when you get pangs of hunger, suppose the pangs of hunger were sweet, it's so nice, you won't go and eat it, you'll die. So Pengzong, ouch, must be suffering. So suffering is a way you keep alive. Think about it. So it's not a bad thing for the, I'm talking about human kingdom, not the animal. Poor animals don't mention it even. This high philosophy. But for you, suffering, the human suffering that you see, like food or this or thorn on my side, is telling me pull it out, of otherwise you'll be, you become septic and you'll get ill. You get infection. So pull it out. So suffering is giving a warning signal. You want to survive, you want to live in the body? Then behave, pull out, don't eat, put food in your stomach like that. So suffering is in a way keeps you alive as a living thing in this body. That is why in that sense it's not bad.
Okay. So he goes basically in the physical sense of suffering. I was thinking more along of the psychological kind of where you start thinking about your past, about the things that you wish you did differently. Some of those are very, very much hard to deal with. For me, there was a thing that I wish I did differently in the past, a few things. And for me, how I kind of got through with it by just constantly experiencing it. Putting myself through the suffering in a sense. But as I constantly experience, I don't know what the right word for it to use is, but I got used to it. As in, it doesn't affect me as much anymore because I've put my body through it, or my mind through it. So it's kind of like when you run and you want to run a mile or 2 kilometers or up a mountain because the air gets thin up there and you want to be able to run all the way to the top. You won't be able to make it the first time around, but the more and more you do it, the more your body gets used to either the air or the length of the run or how fast you run. You get better and better and better at whatever it is you're doing. So putting yourself through the suffering, whether it's a memory or something, will hopefully as you do it more often or as you do it every so often, you suffer less from it because you're like. It seems terrible to say like, oh, because you got bored of it, or that you're no longer you no longer have any emotions to it. But it's more along the lines that you've come to that. Hopefully, your body and your mind comes to the understanding that there's nothing you can do about it. No matter how many times you bring it up, it's just not gonna. It's not gonna change. Then you have the mistake. Again, not a physical thing, which I did explain a little bit earlier. Where as long as you learn from your mistake, you should look at that as a positive. I mean, make sure you try to learn from your mistake, and make sure that when you're doing your job that you're not trying to make a mistake. So you should not suffer from that. And then of course the physical aspect, which I did completely forget about that. I wasn't thinking about that as suffering because obviously it's it's a temporary pain, but I don't suffer from it. I guess because I never had I had a long injury at one point. My kneecap was completely out of place. The major ligaments was all ripped. I had a cast from my crotch area to the toes during winter time. That was the worst injury I had, I think. Yeah, it wasn't. I guess let me explain this because I know not a lot of people watch Lakhani videos. So the very few loyal people who likes Lakhani or just watches every one of my videos. I remember my first time going home on crutches, trying to pee. I had to go pee really bad. I was trying to learn how to pee with the crutches. I was using my broke leg to step on it. I was hurting while trying to pee at the same time. Oh man, that was a learning experience. Boy, I was suffering at that point. I'm laughing at now because even then, after I was done with that, I was laughing at myself too because I don't know. It's really funny just because you're trying to relieve yourself. You don't know how to because I've never used crutches before, and you have to stand. Well, you don't have to stand up. I suppose I could have probably sat down, but I stood up because it's just quicker and easier. And I got the hang of it after that one. Took me only one time to learn how to do it right, so it hurt a little bit. And yeah, that was too funny for me. Hey, if you guys laugh at that, dude, by all means, please do. Just think of just the scenario and the situation of it's just ridiculous to me, and I find that hilarious. anyways, is suffering always a bad thing? I don't believe so. Not always, of course. There are bad suffering, of course, out there. So if you like my content, please consider subscribing. Thumbs up the sign down below. Thanks for watching. I will see you in the next vid.